Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. The weapon of the Zenith for general mission running was picked, where it is not a profit taker or Eidolon build, which is the current meta build for it, due to its second alternate fire mode. Sorry, it's alternate fire mode. Launch a disc, you get infinite. Punch through. You can shoot through walls. Obviously pretty handy for the profit taker fight and for the Eidolon. But somebody wanted, because it's their favorite weapon, so obviously I got to do it for them. It basically comes down to two things: applying slash as efficiently as possible, because one of the things the weapon does struggle with is crit, at least in the full auto mode. Obviously not in the secondary fire mode. Just critical delay gets you over 100%. So let's talk about the build. I had to go a bit of a hybrid, which personally I'm not really a fan of. Hunter Munitions is sort of the flex slot here, but due to the polarity that I had, is just sort of a leftover spot. Because of the high status chance and the weighting, it would actually be better to run just straight up more multi-shot, like a Vigilante Armaments. But the build's pretty simple: base damage, crit chance, crit damage, shred, faction damage. And I used Hammer Shot for even more status chance, and more critical damage to help the slash procs out even more. And that being said, on body shots, it's going to be getting like 15, 16k. Shred is going to be helping out a lot with our DPS in terms of applying slash procs to more things. And the occasional crit to help out with the headshots. Because when you get a critical hit on a headshot, you gain a 2x multiplier to your effective damage. So it's a global 2x multiplier to the damage coming off the weapon. So that would actually make vital sense. Somewhat of a flex slot, though by default it kind of wins. You could go more base damage here if you want, but this is a more flexible build. As soon as you start primering, the damage will increase even more. Where if you had a regular Serration, there would be less multipliers on the damage. So we're going to try it out in what is basically its weakest form, and then we'll add primers. And it's not going to be too impressive before... actually, let me turn this down. This is very loud for me. Alright, I can turn the game back up. Alright, so this is its weakest form. Let's see what we're dealing with. Single digits. Not a big deal. Obviously, we're rapid fire based. Panzer's helping us out, which we're going to be running in missions, so it's appropriate. Slashes in the thousands. Okay, we got stacks on our multi-shot. Aptitude. We're getting slash in the thousands. I saw a couple in the 10,000s. Slash procs all over the place. I'm even seeing some in the hundreds, but most of them are in the thousands. Again, going for body shots. Nice and easy. Alright, slashes in the thousands again. But this time we're killing before Viral can get a hold of it. Alright, let's add Viral back. Full dot build. Alright, I'm seeing slashes a little higher. 7k, 8k. I saw 123k. I think that was a headshot. 26k. Obviously on shots that have proc slash multiple times. As in, like, the multi-shot, multiple instances of damage have proc slash at the same time is causing the jumps. So 17k, 2900. All right, let's do a headshot. 61k. That's a chunky headshot. That's a chunky slash. 29k, 22k, 72k, 37k, and a 500, and a 1996. So it's got some legs on it once it gets stacked up, as most things do. But this would be a more appropriate mission runner. Actually, we could get rid of vigilante supplies. Because the thing is that with the fire rate and the ammo pickup, vigilante supplies adds 30%. The ammo pickup gives 30% to 80. So let's do 80 plus. Oh, hold on. 80 plus 30% will give us 104. So basically, we're doing an ammo pickup per magazine, and with prime shred, it burns through it pretty quickly. But with primed ammo mutation, so we're going to do 80 plus 92% is pretty good, considering the magazine is 90. Basically, we need 2 magazines. We need 2 pickups for every 3 magazines. Little less. It's like 2.8, right? Because 3 magazines is 2 magazines is 180. So 180 divided by 153. Whoops. 180 divided by 153. Okay, so it's like 2 1/4 magazines. Because the 153 is 2 magazines, right? Or 153 is the pickup, 180 is 2 magazines. So easy enough. That'll be enough to keep your ammo economy up. Things that, when I was building this, I noticed helped out substantially since we're going for a pure slash build. Obviously, the Bane is a big deal on getting the damage up. And again, this is a no-ribbon build. The punch through is a big deal for total DPS. For each punch through, if you can line up enough enemies, basically is a straight up multiplier. Considering the punch through is 2.2, you're going to be hitting 3 enemies, if not 4. It should punch through 3 enemies, but it won't make it through the 4th one. So it's basically a 4 times DPS multiplier, but you're just not doing it to 1 enemy. But if you're going for the bullet hose aspect, obviously this is good. Hammer shot, I noticed a pretty substantial increase in slash procs. As you get closer to the 88 or to 100%, the slash becomes more noticeable. Obviously, going from 88% to 100% isn't too big of a deal. But as long as it stays over 50%, right? Because we want to have a reasonable chance of proccing slash procs, because the proc takes into account the multi-shot. So 100 munitions just adds more. Obviously, this is a flex slot. And because we're running hammer shot, if you have another setup that you have in mind, you could certainly swap out 100 munitions and vital sense. Though your damage is going to take a hit, but if you're trying to gain another dot, you would definitely with this weapon have to make sure the weighting is intact. So say you didn't have prime shred because this is a login one, but you have arcanes laying around. Equip arcane acceleration. We'll offload the fire rate. We'll get rid of hammer shot, and say we want to add corrosive. Well, our corrosive is weighted too heavily, so now our slash procs, instead of originating off the IPS of the weapon, we're mostly going to be getting corrosive. But we are over 100% status chance. So that's something, right? Potential for 2 procs is always good. But we just don't have high enough of a status chance. So what we're going to do is lower the weighting. Okay, 9 is too low. Let's see if we can go one more and get it about even. Okay. So now we have an even weighting for slash. Our status chance is a little bit lower, and so is our crit damage, but let's see if it makes a difference in time to kill per enemy. Maybe there's a benefit to it, since we're going to be stripping armor with corrosive. And then we'll compare it to a regular heat dot, which is a proper stacking dot. Again, first one's the worst. We have slash dots in the 100 because we don't have anything stacked up. Let's go ahead and get some headshots. Alright, we got viral. Alright, we are seeing a bit of a raw damage increase. Our raw damage went from like single digit. Now the raw damage is in the thousands because of the Panzer. Our slashes have maintained some weighting. Like, obviously we're not getting the tens of thousands we were getting, but we're also not doing headshots. Okay, there was a 12,000. Let's keep stacking, see where it gets us. Alright, 6k, 2k, 7,700. But the increase in raw damage is substantial, just from having corrosive on the weapon against something that's weak against corrosive. But another thing to consider is this is also going to increase your total ammo usage, if you will. Because we're not going to be getting the benefit of punch through. Kill this final guy. Yeah, 16k, 8k, 900. The numbers are jumping around due to crit and the multiple slashes proccing at the same time is causing it to jump around. So the slash tick might represent multiple slash ticks at the same time. So it might be 4 slash ticks, 5 slash ticks. If we proc slash every single time on our multi-shot, we could be even getting upwards of 6 if all three instances of damage, when you account for multi-shot, all proc hunter munitions and they RNG like an innate slash proc off the weapon, we could be looking at up to 6 instances of slash per every time an ammo is consumed. So there's lots of room for it to jump around. Let's also test the viral setup. Alright, now we're at 19.5 for slash weighting, 18 for viral. So we're going to be proccing slash slightly more often, but more importantly, it's not going to be completely crowded out by the other status. Alright, so we noticed our slash ticks have gone up quicker because we're applying viral ourselves. But because of the Panzer applying viral also, there's a bit of an overlap in terms of like diversity of status procs. So if you're running a Panzer, I would actually recommend against this. But you can see we have on-demand slash procs in the thousands when we want, as opposed to waiting for the Panzer to get around to it. So, easy enough. Alright, let's do gas. And we will obviously free up a ton of mod slots. Not Grenier. Infested. We'll go back with hammer shot. And because we're actually trying to kill with gas. Let's see how far this gets us. Another thing I'm going to test is this is pure gas. All about the status procs. We're trying to kill and increase our damage with multiple AoEs, and obviously keeping the status proc increased as much as possible. One of the things we can also do... Actually, let's just test that first, and we'll see how that gets us, and then we'll talk about putting Shred back on. Let's find an infested baddie. These are always good. Alright, so I'm seeing gas procs in the thousands, but we're building up combo. Alright, mowing them down because they're weak to it. Alright, easy enough. Alright, I'm seeing gas procs 2k, 5k, 8k. Honestly, not bad for general mission running. Let's see if we can amp it a little further. We're going to get rid of Hammer Shot. We're going to put Shred back on. So instead of having each of the gas procs hit harder, what we're going to try to do is apply more gas procs each time and to more enemies. So the we'll still keep the same status chance because we're going to gain bonus damage off of multiple enemies' gas procs applying back and forth to each other to multiply our damage even more. And let's see if we can see it. Alright, we're seeing multiple ticks because these guys all have gas procs, but they're in the not really worth mentioning damage range. Alright, now we're starting to see thousands. Let's amp more. We'll mow these guys down. Okay, 2,700. Alright, and with two procs, I'm seeing 3,400, and on this guy, 2,230 and 18 something. So definitely viable. Obviously, feel it out for yourself, whichever one you want. The good thing about gas is the damage of the gas proc has nothing to do with the actual number. It has a separate calculation, like slash. So if you want to dump stat this, and maybe throw electric on, since we're not killing with slash, and heavily weight into slash. Don't go over more for general usage because you want both of them applying fairly regularly. Like a 2-to-1 ratio. So say you have a 50 weighting gas. Okay, let's use the 30 that I have now. I wouldn't want more than a 72 electric proc, or electric weighting. To still guarantee that both apply regularly, because a multi-shot, it means if everything applies perfectly, obviously, it would be 2 electric procs to 1 gas, but it's a full auto weapon, so you're gonna bullet hose the difference anyway. But because electricity is your scaling, it has an infinite number of procs or statuses you can apply. We want to lean into that more and just pick up gas where we can, and mostly gain the bonus damage off of multiple procs to boost galvanized aptitude. So this would be like an example of an infested build. Okay, let's do Corpus. We'll swap out Banes. We will do... Let's just go Pure Toxin first. I mean, where else would we start, right? Pure Toxin. Alright, easy enough. 45 Toxin weight. The next highest is Gas at 19.5, so we're going to be getting, what, 2 1/4 times... Whoop, I need Corpus. 2 1/4 times the Toxin procs to slash procs. Which honestly isn't too bad considering there's plenty of enemies with armor. Whatever these... Oh, that's the Eximus. Hold on. We'll come back to those. Alright, let's see where this gets us. We'll build up combo on the first row. Seeing Toxin and Slash Dots in the hundreds. Building, building, building. Building some more. Alright, we're at 10. At least that's usable. Alright, seeing Toxin Dots in the hundreds. Alright, we're seeing Toxin and Slash Dots in bunches. So we're going to be killing with lots of dots, not intense dots. So multiple applications to give us a ton of damage. Let's prime. Alright, now we're seeing thousands. Alright, still dots in the hundreds. Couple hundred. Seeing 1 or 2 in the 1,000 range. Alright, let's see if we can improve that number. I mean, obviously it is a bullet hose weapon. It has a very low damage, so getting multipliers off of it is going to be honestly a bit of an issue. But let's see if we can't do better. Alright, so we're gonna remove this and offload attack speed again, and let's add magnetic. And see where that gets us. What's our weighting? Okay, so 27 to 22, good enough to get a feel out of it. Let's get our fire rate back. Because one of the issues when killing Corpus is, though it's not something that people really talk about, the ideal combination for killing Corpus, provided you can get rid of armor, is actually viral toxin. Because their health pool is actually still weak to toxin. Or to viral in terms of raw damage, but you lose the bonus against proto shield enemies. So if you're shooting proto shield enemies, you unironically get bonus damage on your toxin having magnetic on it, so it still counts like viral. So toxin magnetic is the safer combo, and you might want to prime with viral. Alright, we are getting a slight damage boost, even with a 6x arcane multiplier. Because of the multiple procs, instead of just having toxin on it, it is helping us a little bit. But the magnetic isn't doing anything right now. And the fact that the impact weighting is as low as it is on this weapon is honestly hurting us a bit. And we can see it in the performance. Our raw damage is way down. But this would be an example of a possible Corpus build. Obviously, if you don't have a prime mod, the faction, you would fit fire rate here. And especially you would fit fire rate here if you didn't have the acceleration. So let's talk alternate builds. I mean, to be honest, it's behaving like a weapon that's not meant to kill Corpus. It would do significantly better if it honestly had a higher impact rating. The slash weighting obviously helped us in terms of raw damage against the infested. Like when you see IPS, you need to think impact for Corpus, puncture for Grineer, slash for infested. In terms of raw damage, obviously the status effects kind of change what order you want. So this weapon will do better against infested and Grineer. So its weakest is impact, so we're not really gaining the benefit raw damage wise of the IPS. But honestly, for a bullet hose weapon, it's not that bad. It's kind of ironic that the alt fire is as potent as it is, but if we look at the IPS, we can see that the alt fire is different. Significantly higher puncture weighting. But when we look up here, impact is 4.5, puncture is 6, slash is 19.5, but then we look at the alt fire, and it's 15, 20, 15. So it does significantly better against Grineer in terms of raw damage, which is why you mod the hell out of this when you're doing your hunts or PT, because you want the elemental weighting to take over, right? So these are a couple of builds. For Corpus, it seems like it'd be pretty weak generally. But you could go either pure toxin. Like you could go a 60 toxin mod and a 90 toxin mod. And then do like multi-shot to make it up. Right? That way you have your dot scaling. Like this. And then you could even... How do we get that there? Obviously, I'm going to have forma issues with this. You would need something like maybe Vigilante Fervor. I would use Shred here because I have it. And it's clearly the best option. You could also just add Hunter Munitions. Especially if you're using fire rate here. Vigilante Fervor also. Just as long as you get each multiplier, the weapon will do at least okay. Since we're not able to get the full bang for the buck because of the base damage off of this, without priming would boost it up an incredible amount. You could make up for it by having an additional dot trigger regularly, or semi-regularly, about as regularly as 30% crit chance is going to give you. But to have another dot trigger to increase your DPS, though the slash will have to eat through shields, but it would then return benefits when you're up against the armored units, right? So you don't want to wait massively into it. But this would be an option as well. So I hope that's enough of a breakdown. If it's not, let me know, bro. I'll redo it. But these are just basic builds for mission running. And you know what? Let's do some Steel Path. What do we got? 100 munitions and hammer shot. Alright, let's do some Tavuni. And I'll try to give some constructive feedback on it. Oh, hold on. I need my rock. Ye olde testing rock. Alright, we got our fire rate. we'll just burn through the ammo for now. So we're going to be running double fire rate for this. Just give it as best of a chance as possible to do damage, right? So we've got the punch through, we've got fire rate on the weapon itself, we've got fire rate on the frame. So this is ideal situation, and it's slash base. So let's see how it does. Alright, Fortress, where are you? Honestly, with the new update, should probably start doing the survivals on Lua. Because it's just not as impressive anymore. Set off the alarms to draw them out, then steal their Kuva catalysts. Predictable. As expected, Grenier have shut down environmental systems, sending modified... Oh, and I didn't say it before, but against against corrupted, you go toxin slash. Alright, slash procs are the same. Let's see how long we can go without needing air. Maybe that'll be a better metric. How long can it last? I think measuring how long it takes for you to run out of air is a better metric of the kills per second. Because if you're doing survivals, literally the only thing that matters is how much air you need. If you can maintain your air supply at the beginning, like without needing it, you're probably in better shape than you want to admit. But one of the issues that we're going to have is the Acolyte, because this is basically a slash applicator. Yeah, like 20-30 slashes. Because the Acolyte is capped, it might be an issue killing the Acolyte. But obviously, on guys like that, 79 slash, we can stack it up as much as we want. So you would want to make sure to have like a melee or like a secondary that could deal with the Acolytes, because this weapon won't be able to, because we're relying on status application. Just really leaning into it. Life support on the way. 100 slash ticks on the Eximus. A little more for good measure. Like in survivals, there really is zero preference for what counts as a successful survival. It literally doesn't matter how you get it. The only thing that really matters is maintaining air supply. Like, if you can run, like, a Necros or something, and, like, double your drops, and you're only killing, like, 50 enemies if RNG is favoring you, as long as you can maintain air supply, guess what? You're still in the damn mission. But if you have no boosters, if you're not running Necros, and you're killing 120 people a minute, and you can't maintain air supply, guess what? You're running it again. Alright, on headshots, we're seeing 48k, 78k headshots, which is about on par. It's the reason why we took the crit chance and crit damage. is because of the bonus on the heads. If you get good at shooting heads, the game becomes significantly easier because of the 6 times bonus. Alright, and we're out of air in 4 minutes. So, bro science test. But that's how good the weapon is. Slash only. We could obviously test for corrosive. That would probably help us out at the beginning, but eventually corrosive is going to fall off. And it'll be the same thing. But obviously this build is without frame buffs. Obviously running something like a Rhino would help significantly. Running a Saren, obviously, basically with Saren you can run whatever the hell you want. But the weapon on its own, built specifically for the status type that is strongest against that enemy, that's how well it does. So I hope this helps. I'm probably just going to incorporate that sort of test from now on. Because I feel like the testing before the Acolyte is just test how long the weapon lasts. If you don't even make it to the Acolyte, well, whatever. Some ways to fix this this weapon. Its crit chance is almost high enough to Riven out of it. Like on the base fire, the full auto fire, the crit chance is 30. If you could get a Riven roll with 200% crit chance, which is highly unlikely with that dispo. For my Riven, I went Fire Rate Multi-Shot Toxin. And it's more of a PT starter Riven. Obviously you want faction damage and multi-shot and crit chance on there, right? Maybe an element. But for a starter roll, it's not bad. But I would say get crit chance. Try to get something high enough for like a 200%. If you can get to 50% crit chance, the weapon's going to improve so much. Because of the way the multiplier works, the difference between critting 30% of the time versus critting 50% of the time, it's like what? 66% more damage? 50%. Actually, what is it? It's like 42%, I think. No, either way. Because you have to average it out. Going from 30 to 50 is obviously a clear increase, but then you have to subtract out the loss, right? So at best of circumstances, because you have the multiplier, you add the difference, or you subtract the difference, and then multiply it by the crit multiplier, and that's your percent increase in damage compared to what it was. And then you have to subtract the new damage versus the old damage. So if you could get the crit chance to 50%, the weapon would have a huge increase in performance. And obviously after that, it falls down because you're never going to double your instance of getting a crit, right? So at most, going from 50% to 100% can only double your crit multiplier or your total DPS output. Because then you'll just be critting all the time, and then it starts over with the next tier. That's why getting into the next tier is so important. Like, as long as it's by like 10%, right? Just so it triggers eventually. But the first one's the big one, so it's worth leaning into it a little bit if you can. But yeah, seems pretty basic. Base damage, multi-shot, crit chance, crit damage. I did 100 munitions because I was doing a heavy slash build. You saw the variants. Fire rate faction. If you're doing dot for the faction. If you're doing raw damage, just build raw damage. The Bane's only going to apply once. And you could probably get away with doing like 2 60-60s and a 90. And you would be solid. Or do 2 60-60s for whatever deals with the enemy defense, and then a dot that bypasses that defense. So um, for Grenier, it would be corrosive heat with a 100 munitions build would deal with Grenier very well. Versus infested, you could do gas electric 100 munitions, or gas 100 munitions, or honestly pure gas with 100 munitions and a faction mod. And the occasional enemy that has armor, the 100 munitions got you covered. Though it is going to take you a little bit to deal with them. But other than that, you're going to be mowing down trash mobs like nobody's business. And if you want something more purist and you want to kill with slash more, you would throw viral on if you don't have a panzer. And that would be gangbusters against the infested, because generally they don't have armor. Against Deimos, you would do corrosive slash. Like corrosive heat slash. Right? And obviously this build is not considering frame buffs. But anyway, there you go. Bit of a breakdown. I made sure to share the logic on how to build these. If you don't like personally having slash this low, I get it. You would pack elements, base damage. Since hammer shot is not going to be getting abused, you would remove these 3. Since we're not applying crits, this is gone. And you would look for a more elemental setup, and you would probably equip something like Vigilante Armaments. So then you would do like corrosive heat. For the double dot. Where are you? And then you would just balance from there. Again, we're going for 2 to 1. Perfect. So what we would be looking for something like this. Obviously 27 is a multiple of 9, 3 times 9. 18 is 2 times 9, so it's a 2 to 3. Close enough. And you would use this to shred them, and you would use multiple procs of shredding the heat, but the heat would end up doing damage. The occasional slash tick would help against the Grenier. But this would all be effective against an infested enemy on Deimos, and obviously you would faction mod appropriately. Something like this. But it is going to add, because you're killing with pure dot, essentially, because those enemies have very high armor percentages. They're either very high armor with very low health, or lower armor with higher health. Like I think the Jugulus Rex has like a massive health pool behind like a 400 armor, like a 400 armor rating, but it's like 2500 or something like that. But anyway, I hope this helps with the alternatives, multiple builds. Obviously, build it however you want. Test. There's nothing wrong with holding off on Forma, and running, if you just want to try out corrosive, run 2 unranked mods, and see how it affects your build. You do not have to Forma early. The Bane mods, if you're running any sort of a dot, you should make somewhat of an effort to try to get them on the build. And punch through is a big help on lower crit damage weapons. Really, it is. Because it gives you an additional multiplier. And obviously if you can use both, that is ideal. So status chance, base damage, raw damage, and a dot, plus punch through and a faction mod. The worst that's going to happen is where some things, when you're using them, feel like they do all of the damage, and then all of a sudden you don't feel like you do any damage. A weapon that can do punch through, crit chance, status chance, has a raw damage element that deals with the enemy's defenses, and has a dot that bypasses it. You're not gonna experience that anywhere near as hard, because what's gonna happen is the raw damage will start to fall off, and then the dot will take over. And obviously, if you're doing like way higher level builds, you're just gonna take whatever is best against the enemy and completely bypasses their defenses, and you are gonna dump everything into that. Like whatever is allowing you to kill the enemy, whatever delivery of damage you're using. So for this one, it would be like a heat. If I wanted to do a higher level build, I would get rid of corrosive and go in on heat and try to find another multiplier. So I would do like I have fire rate, faction. I would probably drop in another serration. And maybe try to get like another vigilante mod, even though vigilante armaments is pretty good. It's part of a lot of meme higher level builds. And one of the things you could also do is run just the crit chance to RNG the 2x for the bonus on the headshots. Because on headshots, like I said before, headshots count as a weak point, so there's a 3 times damage multiplier, but then there is an also additional multiplier when you crit. So you will get the crit multiplier, and which in this case is 2. You have the headshot weak point, which is 3. And then you have an additional multiplier of 2 on top of all of it, because it's a crit, just for being special. So running crit chance and crit chance alone wouldn't be a complete loss, provided you know to abuse headshots. And you would just RNG your extra damage that way, and you would, as you lost you would eventually lose the ability to bullet hose enemies. You could then start picking your shots and bullet hosing their head, and you'd find your damage would pick right back up. Obviously, that's going to be easier said than done in areas where you're getting mobbed, right? But that's where the shred sort of starts to help out a bit. Is because if you're shooting at something's chest, you're obviously shorter than whatever the enemy is, if it's like a ancient. If you're shooting at the enemy in front of you's chest, there's a good chance one of the enemies behind it, that bullet's trajectory will intersect with somebody's head. So you'll be suffering from success over a large number average. It's a nice little pop. But anyway, I think this is good for now. These are some alternatives, talks about building. Sounds good to me. Anyway, y'all have a blessed day. Take it easy, and I hope this helps, my dude.